Colonel Marcus Thompson reviewed the monthly personnel assignments with growing frustration. Marine Corps Base Quantico was preparing for a classified joint training exercise with Navy SEALs, and they needed their best communications specialists. His eyes stopped on one name that made him shake his head in disbelief. Staff Sergeant Victoria Hayes, the quiet IT technician who spent her days fixing computers in the basement of Building 12. Thompson had seen her around the base, always with her head down, never speaking unless spoken to, looking more like a college intern than a Marine. The request specifically asked for their most experienced field communications expert for a dangerous reconnaissance mission simulation. Someone who could handle encrypted battlefield communications under extreme stress. And apparently, Command thought the girl who couldn't even make eye contact during morning formations was their best option. What Colonel Thompson didn't know was that the woman adjusting circuit boards in the dim basement carried secrets that would shatter every assumption he had made. Staff Sergeant Victoria Hayes sat in the underground communications center at Marine Corps Base Quantico, her weathered hands steady as she calibrated the latest encrypted radio systems. At 26, her face carried the quiet intensity of someone who had learned to blend into backgrounds while carrying enormous responsibility. The Colorado native had been stationed at Quantico for 8 months, serving as the primary IT support for the base's communication infrastructure. Most Marines saw her as just another desk Marine, someone who chose the easy path behind a computer instead of real military service. Victoria's exceptional technical skills didn't develop overnight. Growing up in Colorado Springs, near Peterson Space Force Base, she was surrounded by military communications technology from childhood. Her father, a retired Air Force communications specialist, taught her electronics repair when other kids were playing video games. By 15, she could rebuild military radios from spare parts. Her natural aptitude led to early enlistment at 18, where she quickly distinguished herself in advanced communications schools. What her current colleagues didn't realize was that Victoria's previous deployment had been with Marine Special Operations Command, a detail carefully omitted from her current assignment roster. The dismissive comments started immediately during the pre-mission briefing. Colonel Thompson looked directly at Major Patricia Rodriguez, the exercise coordinator, and spoke as if Victoria wasn't sitting 3 feet away in the conference room. "Ma'am, with respect, we're running a high-stakes joint training exercise with Navy SEALs. These communications need to be flawless under simulated combat conditions. Are we really going to trust mission-critical communications to someone who probably struggles with field work?" Several other senior Marines nodded in agreement. These weren't ordinary soldiers questioning her abilities. These were experienced combat veterans whose opinions carried weight throughout the base. Victoria felt the familiar burn of humiliation rise in her chest, but she maintained her neutral expression. She had learned early in her military career that emotional reactions only confirmed the biases people already held. Major Rodriguez, visibly uncomfortable, explained that Staff Sergeant Hayes had the highest technical certification scores in the entire base communications department and had successfully completed advanced training courses without incident. Thompson's response cut deeper. He suggested that classroom scores and actual battlefield performance were entirely different challenges, and maybe they should consider assigning someone with proven field experience when the exercise's success was on the line. The joint training exercise began at 0400 hours in the Virginia wilderness. Navy SEAL Team 5 was conducting a simulated high-value target extraction, while Marine units provided support and communications oversight. Victoria had been assigned to establish the primary communications relay from a forward observation post. 3 hours into the exercise, everything went wrong.
Simulated enemy forces had jammed primary communications frequencies, and the SEAL team was effectively cut off from command support. Multiple backup communication attempts failed as electronic warfare scenarios overwhelmed standard protocols. Colonel Thompson, monitoring from the command post, watched in growing frustration as communication after communication failed. The exercise was minutes away from being called off due to safety concerns, when a clear, steady voice cut through the static on an emergency frequency. It was Victoria, speaking in rapid, precise military communications protocols that Thompson had never heard from a base technician. She was coordinating multiple encrypted frequency adjustments while simultaneously establishing satellite uplinks and managing electronic countermeasures. But what caught Thompson's attention wasn't just her technical expertise. It was the unmistakable sound of someone who had done this before under actual fire. Her voice carried the controlled calm of someone who had managed life-and-death communications in real combat situations. During a brief pause in communications traffic, Thompson happened to glance at Victoria through his binoculars. Her sleeve had rolled up slightly as she worked, revealing a distinctive tattoo on her left forearm, the unmistakable trident and anchor symbol that only one unit in the Marine Corps was authorized to wear: Marine Special Operations Command. The exercise concluded successfully, with the SEAL team extraction completed flawlessly thanks to Victoria's communications management. As units returned to base, Colonel Thompson approached Victoria's position with a mixture of curiosity and growing respect. "Staff Sergeant Hayes," he began, his tone completely different from the dismissive attitude of the morning briefing. "That was exceptional work out there. Mind if I ask about your previous assignments?" Victoria looked up from packing her equipment, her expression guarded but professional. "Sir, I served 2 deployments with Marine Special Operations Command, forward communication specialist for direct action missions in Afghanistan and Syria." Thompson stared at the tattoo now clearly visible on her forearm, the distinctive insignia that marked her as one of the elite Marines who supported the most dangerous missions the Corps undertook. "Why didn't you mention this during the briefing?" Thompson asked. Victoria's response was simple and direct. "Sir, you didn't ask about my qualifications. You asked about my appearance." Word of Victoria's background spread quickly through the base command structure. Within weeks, requests for her expertise began coming from units across the Marine Corps, all specifying they wanted the communications specialist who had pulled off the impossible frequency management during the SEAL exercise. More importantly, attitudes around her began shifting in significant ways. Officers started including her directly in tactical planning sessions, rather than treating her as simple technical support. New personnel received briefings about her capabilities before they had opportunities to form biased assumptions. 6 months later, when Victoria received orders for her next assignment, she carried commendations from both Marine and Navy Special Operations Commands. But what mattered most was knowing that her grandfather's lessons about quiet competence and letting actions speak louder than words had proven themselves when it counted most. The girl from Colorado had reminded an entire base that the most dangerous Marines are often the ones you never see coming.